Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark David. We will discuss about the Bloom's digital taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy. So we will start now with the cognitive targets. For cognitive taxonomy, we have references. Bloom's taxonomy and Anderson taxonomy. For Bloom, we have KCAASE. K stands for knowledge, C for comprehension, A applications, A for analysis, S for synthesis, and E for evaluations. For memory, Bloom the highest among the cognitive thinking skills is evaluations. While for Anderson, no, RU, AAEC, R for remembering, U for understanding, A is applying, A is analyzing, and E is evaluating, while C is creating. Now, for Anderson, creating is the highest among the cognitive thinking skills or cognitive taxonomy. What are the difference between the two? First, difference is the terminologies. They just choose different terms, but the meaning are the same. For instance, knowledge is the same as remembering. Comprehensions is synonymous to understanding. Synthesis is also a synonymous to creating. Now, another difference that they have is that for Bloom, the highest among thinking skills in evaluation. Fifth is the synthesis, but the highest is evaluation, while Anderson, the highest is creating, which has the same meaning as synthesis, while the fifth among the higher orders is thinking skills for cognitive target is evaluate. Now we are going to discuss cognitive taxonomy in reference to Benjamin Bloom. Let us now start the Bloom taxonomy. The first one is knowledge. The letter K is knowledge. Knowledge is the main foundations of all learnings. They say that knowledge is the lowest form of learning, but still it is the foundations of all learning process because you will not be able to synthesize, analyze, apply, or evaluate, even comprehend if you cannot recall the informations, if you cannot remember the informations. Now, what is knowledge again? Knowledge is simply the recall of an informations is a fact as long as your students can recall all the informations that you have discussed, then they have or they will fall under knowledge. For instance, if you would ask a student what is the center of the solar system, and your student would say that the center of the solar system is the sun, then the student would recall, and your objective you may write at the end of the lessons. So that should be able to recall or to identify the center of the solar system, or they could define the sun as long as they can memorize or they have memorized informations, then the skills falling under knowledge. Now the science features about this level of taxonomy is that they know but we do not understand. So now if we would like to enhance the skills of our students under the taxonomy knowledge, what are the learning objectives that we have to use or what we use in our lesson plan? First, we have objectives which have curves like define, enumerate, list down, identify, or recall. So with that example of objective, under knowledge is this defined nouns. This objective define is an example under knowledge. Or you can have enumerate the parts of the flower. No, enumerating the parts of a flower, would you just uh, require a person or a student to recall all the parts of the flowers? that they learn from the discussions. At the same time, they just need to memorize the meaning of nouns in order to meet the objective. Define nouns, you can also have their objective. Starting with state, if your subject is political science, you can use state, the of the preamble of the Philippines Constitution. They will be able to meet the taxonomy knowledge. So if you have questions, you may ask your teachers. Stop me. Next is the Bloom's taxonomy and more. This image was created by Kathy Shahrak in 2013. She took the SMART model substitution, augmentations, modifications, and redefinitions, and compared it with Bloom's. So if substitution is our bottom level, it's going to go with remembering. If augmentations is still enhancing our lessons but not yet transforming, it augmentations is going to go with understanding and applying modifications with new tasks can relate to apply, analyzing, and evaluating, and last, redefinitions. When we have all new tasks and can now do something that was impossible without any technology, we'll be evaluating and creating. We can think as technology, allowing students to create something that they couldn't have created before evaluating technology. May give students more perspectives and things that they wouldn't have without technology. So, then if we look down at the other end, we know substitution is a direct substitute, so there's no change, so it's going to be the same learning. You have just kind of have to remember what's going on. Even though there's technology involved, it may not totally change the situation. Next is apps and Bloom's taxonomy. I wanted to begin with this infographic by Kathy Sharrock, Bloom's revised taxonomy. This is another infographic by Kathy Sharrock. Her website, Sharrock Guide Blooming Apps or Blooming Dash Apps. She shares on the left the Bloom's taxonomy verbs, and then she has group apps according to their usage, and then there's also iPad apps to support Bloom's revised taxonomy, and she has online tools, and then there are also Google apps. I am working with the Apple apps or the iPad apps and the Android apps. I choose Android because my laptop is Android, and I know that they would work with the Google. Like if you were going to Google school, my school happens to be a Apple school. We're on the one-on-one devices. The first app I wanted to share was the structure under analyzing. It's a simple mind mapping look every interesting. It helps you to organize your thoughts, remembering things, and generate new ideas. The next app I wanted to share is the Padlet. It's an organizing app, and it's also can be found under the analyzing column or row. Padlet is a very interesting tool as it's basically like a notepad or just a notepad for collaborating with a group and generating ideas and every useful to use. Another analyzing tool that I choose was ThinkLink app. Very cool tool to use for research and informations, fosters informations, project. The children would have to do even not necessarily informational narrative character. treats, there are lots of ideas that I saw that Cheche load an image and then you put these little icons under, and when they click on that icons it bring up embedded link. So I thought it would be a really cool tool for research posters clip. It's an iPad app that children can use to share their understanding. I think they can also use it for creating as well. It's a pretty cool tool that being an Apple school we have used. Voice thread, it is a describing tool for remembering. I have used this in my college courses, and once it is very easy to the children while younger. Children would have too little more assistance. There's a lot more that you're remembering. The children can collaborate on different things. They can communicate. They can carry on conversations. You can get in lots of different activities that you can with voice strength. Next is the pedagogy wheel. The pedagogy wheel, developed by Alan Carrington of Designing Outcomes in Australia, is a graphical representation of the interface of mobile apps with Bloom's cognitive blooming categories and smart model of technology integrations. The history of the pedagogy wheel, Alan Carrington got the idea of putting apps around the outside of the Bloom's taxonomy wheel and organizing them according to his cognitive domain. The pedagogy wheel is designed to help educators think systematically, coherently, and with a view to long-term, big pictures outcomes about how these mobile apps in their teaching. The pedagogy wheel is also about mindset. It's a way of thinking about digital educations that matches the other concerns about mobile apps, features, learning transformations, motivations of novel development, and long-term learning objects. The underlying principles of the Pagode wheel is that should determine our educational use of apps, but what you need to do at the same time is to think about how the app might contribute to your set of educational aims for the program you are about to teaching. I believe this will increase student engagements, improve learning outcomes, and empower students towards transforming into an excellent graduate. So we have remember and understand with apps like Twitter, Facebook, Google search, so things where they are really kind of reading sometime something else, and remember we have applying their knowledge with apps like Keynotes, Google Docs, Voice, and audiobooks, so they really have time to take what they're learning and applying in other way. We have are analyzing. Here we have the coming comic like Pupplet. We have many different apps that helps take what they're doing and analyzing it into different categories and make sense of what they're doing. We have to evaluate things like Edmodo, Skype, and all of these allow for self-evaluation. Students to summarize, to critique, and evaluate the content. And last, we have the create sections of our wheel, which has apps like GarageBand and iMovie, where they're creating and they can make songs, they can make podcasts, they can do, we have a ton of activities in there. We are action verbs where they can create things to show what they're learning. So we have your action verbs that just like a Bloom's taxonomy.